Lifestories Live.
Great.
So Paul Daniels, huge inspiration, the Paul Daniels Magic Show, seeing him every Saturday night. And I met Paul Daniels, an amazing character. He was a Christian back in the day, but totally renounced faith. He was in a Methodist church lay preacher, and he would go around and he would do tricks in the pulpit. But so many people complained that he was doing sorcery. He became an avowed atheist for all his life. He had a very sad funeral, one of these totally non-faith funerals. Just really sad, but an amazing entertainer.
So how difficult is it then to be a Christian in that kind of entertainment field?
I don't think it's hard at all. You know how hard it is to be a Christian at Barclays Bank? I don't think it's any harder to be a Christian in the entertainment field. Maybe the temptations, maybe more temptations there. I think I've handled it quite well over 3 decades.
Now, do you have any siblings, brothers or sisters that you were able to share with?
Do you know what? My little brother died 2 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, my little brother David, he suddenly started shuffling around, had problems with his leg, went to various doctors, found he had a brain tumour, and he very sadly died.
Sad to hear that.
Within 7 months of first getting ill. So that was a real shocker to mum and dad, especially.
It would be, of course.
Yeah.
Now, of course, your career, of course, moved on quite well. Now, it said you've travelled the world, apparently, 30 countries. Which was the most, should I say, productive or impressive on you that you visited?
Do you know what? I loved Mexico City. I told that story earlier. People come to faith, phenomenal. You know, an occult fair of all places. I mean, that's crazy stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Great times in Argentina. Went to King of Kings churches, King of Kings Church, prayed for by the pastor there, Claudia Friedzen. That was very powerful. He always pulls English pastors up onto the stage and prayed for people, and felt like electricity through my body and thrown to the ground. First time that's really ever happened. That was many years ago, and we saw a lot of great stuff there out on the streets. I love the UK, George, to be honest with you. I love travelling and speaking to people and seeing how open people are in the UK. They really are.
You mentioned that you were prayed for. How important to you is prayer in what you do as an entertainer, as a Christian? How important is that to you?
You know, I think it's absolutely vital that people have got my back. I mean, I was saying, I don't know whether you were here when we were chatting before, and I've just literally come back from hospital today. I've found out I had cancer 6 months ago and various ops and all that sort of stuff. And just in that process, realising how many people out there are praying for me has been quite phenomenal and really touching. I think prayer is a secret ingredient in evangelism as well. I know when Billy Graham first came in 1980, first time that I remember in 1984, where I first saw him, you know, prior to Mission England. That was 84, wasn't it? They trialled prayer triplets in the UK. So 3 friends got together once a week and they each prayed for three friends. So 9 people were prayed for. And the prayer triplets were more successful than Billy's mission.
Wow.
People came to faith because consistently, week in, week out, 3 people praying for 3 people each. So 9 people being prayed for. So I think prayer is really, really key.
Fantastic.
It buoyed me on, and I'm doing well. To cut a very long story short, probably September, October time, my lovely wife, Bekah, noticed a little black mark on the underside of my foot. And I walk my dog a lot, and I thought it was a little blood blister. And she nagged and nagged and nagged. And in
As
the
they
end,
do.
oh, you said that, not me. And in the end, I thought, okay, I'll go and see my doctor. And then I realised I could take a photo. And I thought, I like that. Then I've got to go in there and waste their time. So I took a photo. They called me in. They said, we're really not sure what that is. Send you to a dermatologist. 2 weeks later, I'm there with this Greek doctor, and we're getting on so well. I showed him a trick and everything, and we're laughing and joking. And he says, I'm really not sure. He said, we really need to take a biopsy. You need to get to hospital for that. I said, look, Doc, any chance you could do it now? Save me a couple of weeks. He said, go on then. So he did this biopsy, and it was on the underside of my foot, the ball of my foot. And he said, look, I've got to warn you, this is the most painful place in your whole body to have an injection. I've got to give you an injection to numb it before I take a biopsy, a little bit of flesh out. And And he was so good. I said, this is incredible. I said, I can't feel anything. He said, well, I've not done it yet.
Now that's magic.
Yes. And then he did it. And oh, man, I almost kicked him in the face. I'm really ticklish as well. And he said, no, he said, in other countries, this is how they torture people, sticking needles into their feet. So he sent this off. And he phoned me up 2 weeks later, bolt out of the blue. I sat downstairs, 5:10, watching the chase on ITV with a mug of coffee. And he said, it's the doc. And I said, hey, doc. And he said, I've got some bad news. You've got some skin cancer. And of course, I didn't ask enough questions. So when my wife came in, she said, well, what sort of cancer? There's all sorts of cancers you can get. And it turns out mine was a malignant melanoma. That's probably the worst you can get. Mm-hmm. And it started a process of lots of ops. I got some great pictures that I can't show you because they're so horrendous. So the final op was take a great big chunk out of my foot. And the surgeon said, I've got to go 2 centimetres deep. And I misheard him. I thought he said 2 millimetres. But I'm still looking at it now, 2 centimetres. Surely it goes right through your foot. But he went 2 centimetres deep, took a great big chunk out. And they said, we need to check your lymph node because cancer spreads up your lymphatic system. Mm-hmm. So the lymph node out of my groin. And they subsequently found some traces there. So it meant it had spread. So I'm on a year's worth of immunotherapy. This amazing new drug that 4 years ago wasn't even around. Mm-hmm. That is, well, it is and isn't like chemo, because chemo kills everything, the good and the bad, and you hope the good stuff grows back, and it's really brutal. But immunotherapy, essentially a layman's term, it supercharges your immune system to fight any nasty last bits. So mm-hmm. I've kind of got a supercharged immune system, but that has certain side effects. And so today I went for a PET scan. So I've been pumped with radioactive stuff. I was telling Alan, I'm very disappointed that I'm not glowing. Maybe if I turn these lights off, I'll be orange. But they said, you've got to drink and drink and drink to get this stuff out of your system. But I'm being careful not to, otherwise I'll be in the toilet every 5 minutes. So we're really in faith that the cancer's gone. It's stopped at my lymph node. It's not gone beyond, but I really feel like I've had a complete MOT. Wow. And I really do believe that good can come out of every situation. And I've shared this on Facebook and with various people. And I've had 2 friends go and have operations and discovered they've got cancer because of my story. And their kids or partners have said, oh, remember what happened to Steve? Why don't you get that little mark checked out? You don't think you're going to get skin cancer on your foot.
And how was this?
Mine had nothing to do with the sun. They said it's a rogue gene and about 1% of skin cancer is on the foot. So people out there watching this, check yourself out. Take a photo, send it to your doc if you're not sure.
And how was this episode affected your life, your faith, your work?
We came out of lockdown. Mm-hmm. And then the diary started to fill up again. And then this happened. Mm-hmm. So for 4 months, I was unable to walk. yeah, I was just tough because I'm a very active person. I probably put on 2 stone. I'm sat there for 4 months watching telly, trying to do work on my laptop, cancelled all my gigs. Yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, I'm a very upbeat person, but there were moments where it was really tough, because financially, all my money comes from gigs.
Mm-hmm.
I do Sorted Magazine. That's a faith project. Recently, I've started paying myself £50 a week doing that, but I realise I probably earn more with a paper round.
So yeah, because I like what you said there about finance follows faith.
Yeah, totally. I've discovered this again and again and again. I'll just
So,
share one thing, George, here.
mm-hmm.
Just to talk about this cancer thing. I found something in Psalms, and I've read through the whole Bible, maybe only 3 or 4 times in my life. So I sat down to do it, and 2 weeks into January, I find I'm skim reading. And if you ask me a minute afterwards what I'd read, I wouldn't have the faintest idea.
I can't remember, yeah.
And I found this while I was going through my cancer treatments. I love walking. From Psalm 56, 12 to 13, from the Message. And I got this all framed up, and it's downstairs in our lounge. God, you did everything you promised, and I'm thanking you with all my heart. You pulled me from the brink of death, my feet from the cliff edge of doom. Now I stroll at leisure with God in the sunlit fields of life. And that's kind of so pertinent to where I was and the walking and the fields around here that I love walking through. So, Psalm 56, 12 to 13, for those going through medical situations now that seem impossible, print that out, reflect on that, meditate on that. It's really powerful.
That's obviously inspired you. Finance following faith. I mean, you mentioned lockdown as well. How big an impact on that was your income and your actual, your own self being locked away and not in front of people?
Well, it was massive. I mean, I started doing stuff. I started a podcast that has gone very well. If you want to check me out, interviewing people, it's called Backstory Podcast. I don't know if we can get a link up somewhere, Alan, at some point, if you stay in touch with people that are watching. It's called the Backstory Podcast. Put in my name, Steve Legg, Backstory Podcast. You'll find it on any of the podcast platforms. I came up with this idea of chatting to people, famous people, well-known people, mates of mine, just on 5 things that have shaped them. So I love stories. This is why I love this concept that you guys do, because you can argue with all sorts of things. You can argue with theology and argue on all sorts of points, but you can't really argue with someone's story. Or you can, but it's stupid if you do. It's their story. And I chat to people about 5 stories that have shaped their life, 4 inspirational ones and 1 hugely embarrassing one.
So let's throw that back at you then. What are the 5 things that have shaped your life?
Oh, come on. You've got to give me more time to think about it. Yeah. I've got plenty of embarrassing ones. I filled a whole book with those. I just spoke to some amazing people. People like Jensen Button, Joe Pasquale, the comedian, Nicky Gumbel, who started this Alpha course, and just fascinating people over the years. Kevin Kennedy, who played Curly in Coronation Street for 20 years. Just a really eclectic mix of people. I've had from the States, I've had from Hall and Oates, John
Darrell Hall, was it? John Oates?
John Oates, yes. Yeah, Darrell Hall and John Oates. John Oates, I've half an hour with John Oates, an absolutely fascinating character.
Wow.
We talked about music and where he come from and how he started at 16, meeting his musical partner. And we talked about faith a little bit. Jeff Wayne from War of the Worlds. He's another great one. And a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily call themselves Christians, they just come on the show and we talk about their stories. So that's been good. I do a little radio show every Saturday lunchtime on Connect Radio, which is this new radio station that it does it's very much crossover. So it's the best Christian music and the best mainstream music. And we have some great guests on that as well. Get busy with that. I did some Zoom shows, but Zoom doesn't work for me. I need a proper audience.
Just to mention to people watching, the backstory with Steve Legg is available on your website, sortedmag.com. I'm just watching.
Yes, if you click, yes, of course, click on there. So sortedmag.com is great. Everything else that I can do, you can contact me through there. But click on there.
So just to finish off on a high note, let's talk a little bit about the Sorted magazine. That's something you said that they were bringing. You were at the school chatting to a friend of yours, or your accountant, I should say, and you were talking about the books that young boys were bringing to the school.
Yeah.
So tell us how it all developed and you got into making this magazine.
Well, I heard this story. I went home. God sort of nudged me, I believe, and said, "Why don't you start something a bit like that?" So I probably went to the newsagent, bought a load of men's magazines. I went through them and thought, I like this, don't like that. That's a good idea. I could twist that. I could do this, I could do that. And then I found a designer and someone to help me with the editing. And I found a printer, and that was it.
And you were away.
We were away with number one, and we had Bekah on the cover, the Brazilian footballer. There was a young guy called Bear Grylls, who was a little bit famous, wasn't as famous as he is now. And I said to Bear, would you be involved in it? He said, that's a great idea, mate. And he's been in every one for the last 15 years. And I've got some good columnists and some great stories. And it's kind of grown from there. So this is number 89. That's out today. And we chat to Martin Sheen, the Hollywood actor. Great story. He's got a strong faith. And Jim Kerr and Tim Campbell from The Apprentice, the first winner of The Apprentice. He shares his story of faith.
Life Stories Live. Life Stories.
There's amazing stuff in there.
Is this a free magazine, or is it?
No, you've got to pay for it, because we think if it. Well, we really want unbelievers to have it for free, but we want Christians to subscribe for £36 a year. And we got Father's Day. I'm not sure. Oh, we're going. Look, where this is live, isn't it? Of course, yes. Father's Day in the UK is this Sunday.
Correct.
So churches are buying boxes of 40 for 60 quid and giving them to all the men in church. So we want Christians to buy it to fund it, because this costs hundreds of thousands of pounds. I mean, the print alone, and I haven't got that sort of money. So we want Christians to buy it and give them away.
So anybody watching, where can we find this magazine, or where can we get it?
On the website, sortedmag.com. Go on there, subscribe, and then you'll get them in the post.
Now, just finishing off, of all the people you met, you mentioned some really famous characters. Which of the people that you've met through your life has made the most impression on you?
But I think going back, it's Bruce, this vicar, who came along to the Boys Brigade camp once a year, and he told stories and he sang songs with his harmonica thing, and he did watercolour painting, and he cut them out and stuck them on a little board and told stories. And I was talking about him, excuse me, I talk about him a lot, and I mentioned his surname, Bruce Kington. And I was in a church somewhere, and someone said, well, I know Bruce. I said, is he still alive? He said, yeah, he is. He's a real old boy now, but he's still alive. And I found his address and I wrote to him. And I got this beautiful letter back. He didn't type, it was handwritten. It was really spidery. He said, thank you so much. He said, I went to that camp every year for years and years. And I told me stories, and I played my harmonica, and I did me pictures and stuck them on the fuzzy felt board and talked about Jesus and gave away copies of Journey into Life. And I never knew if it impacted anyone. And I said, well, Bruce, if there's such a thing as grandchildren in the faith, you've probably got 100,000, because over the years of my traveling, introducing thousands and thousands of people to Jesus, it would have never happened without you. Wow. And that was just lovely to be able to say thank you to him.
Now, looking forward, any plans for the future?
Well, back on the road, so I was able to start walking again in April. So I'm out and about. The immunotherapy is going well. So starting to gig again, so looking busy-ish, not as busy as it used to be, but September, October, November are looking good.
So do you think the pandemic has changed people in the way they receive things now?
No, I don't. I think people are really up for it again. We went to a big Christian festival a couple of weeks ago. There were 40,000 people there, the big church festival, and people were just ready to party and celebrate and be back together again.
Sorry, there's one more thing I did want to actually mention to you. I love the story you told about being at Spring Harvest and with your tabard, and yes. You say you can't park there. How much power do you think that gave you? You can't park there.
You give someone a fluorescent tabard and a walkie-talkie, they become different creatures altogether.
Well, you've had a fantastic story. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you for telling us about it. Of course, there's one question I ask all the guests on this programme. Of all the decisions you have made in your life, what is the best decision you have ever made?
Hearing this Christian message and following it.
Amen. Thank you for that, Steve. And with that, I'll go back to my brother Alan. That's the lad we mentioned earlier.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. Perhaps you're going to leave Barclays to get into some comedy. How do you do it? Thanks, Steve. That was really wonderful hearing what you shared tonight. Absolutely wonderful. We've had lots of comments. Someone says, I'd love to know, Steve, what's your next strategy to reach people for Jesus? And just to let you know, we have this DVD at our church. So what's your next strategy?
Do you know what? Keep the magazine going, growing the magazine, really. After It's a Boy, I'd written a sequel, an Easter cartoon. It's so expensive and it took so much out of me. I know finance follows faith. Yeah. I'm preaching to myself here. Maybe I ought to crack on with that.
Okay, business matters. Yes, we've seen DVD in Scotland in the churches. Great work, Steve.
Thank you.
Leading the way with Dr. Michael Youssef, UK. You're such a blessing, Steve. We see sorted at Manchester Airport all the time.
Wonderful.
Relation Knowledge International, truly inspiring. Keep going, brother. Shalom, Olivia Hare. I watch you on Tough Talk. So blessed. Thanks, Steve. Some great stats already tonight. 104 people who shared the post on Facebook.
Great.
5 people already clicked the salvation link from UK on Facebook tonight. Another message from Facebook, Shalom Olivia Hare. I remember you telling us a funny story with Tough Talk about you in Paris.
Oh, yes.
And then people messaged about Steve's cancer. We're all praying for you.
Thank you.
Tough Talk family. So there you are. Great.
We love the Tough Talk family. They're great guys.
The podcast is on Facebook and YouTube. Yeah, we got that on there for people to see that.
Yeah, it's easy to find. Backstory podcast. There are a few called Backstory, but mine's got my name on it. There's a yellow and black ad.
Great. It's been so wonderful having you with us, Steve, tonight. Really has been great.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you, George. Thank you, John. Can I invite you all to join us again next Monday, 8 o'clock UK time on Lifestories Worldwide. We're going to California next Monday for David Robinson, Leading the Leaders. Since 1966, David has been developing leaders, building teams, and finding solutions in both the church and the marketplace. He owned and operated a very successful RV dealership with 37 employees, an annual turnover of $50 million. But then, since 2005, he's been working, developing leadership, helping people. So you're going to hear from David Robinson next Monday. Tell your friends to join us on Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. And again, if you need help, call us on our hotline, +44 794 355 0287. Or go to our website, lifestoriesworldwide.com. You'll find lots of information. We have a Life Stories Worldwide app you can get and see all the things that are going on. You can watch other stories from previous Mondays. Lots of good things. So thank you once again. It's been great having you with us, Steve. Thank you, George. Thank you, John. May God bless you all. May you know the joy of the Lord and the peace that passes all human understanding.
Life Stories Live.